I'm going to get going with my review of Magic 2019 for deck building. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 5 Elder Dragons that are coming in with the set. And also, while I'm at it, I'm going to bring in also all the rares and mythics that I haven't discussed in the previous videos. And some I'll discuss again just because they're cool. But at the end of this video, I should be done with all rares and mythics. Of course, Magic 2019 is bringing redone cards for the 5 Elder Dragons out of the Legends set. It's one of the earliest sets in Magic's history. And these are Arcades, Sabbath, Chromium, Nicol, Bolas, Palladia-Mors, and Vaevictis as Mari. They're really been redone completely. Now they have different casting costs and they have different effects. They do different things. In the case of Arcades, the strategist, it's a 4-drop 3/5 flyer with vigilance. That's already pretty good. But it's even better because whenever a creature with defender enters a battlefield under your control, you draw a card. So you're going to build all the defenders, you're going to build them into a deck. And so I love Arcades. I think it's my favorite of the 5. Just because it is a true build around that has its own thing going. Very similar to an enchantment that was out doing Cans of Tarkir, but now it's even better. Now it's a commander. You can build a whole commander deck around the theme. And then, of course, in addition to that, to drawing you cards off your defenders, each creature you control with defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power and can attack as though it didn't have defender. That is what that enchantment did. I forget the name. It's beautiful. This is a great card. I think it's going to be a ton of fun to build an Arcades, the strategist, commander deck with all the defenders I can find in my gigantic stash of junk. Chromium the Mutable is a 7. It's a square 7/7/7 with flying. It cannot be countered, and it's got flash. I love this effect that it has flash. You can drop them anytime, and then also you can discard a card, and it basically becomes Invisible Stalker from Innistrad. You're not going to use the Invisible Stalker effect to attack with it. It's only going to be a 1/1. You're going to use it to protect Chromium if somebody tries to take them out. So that kind of makes them impossible to take out as long as you can discard a card to the effect. That's really, really good. Palladia-Mors is a 6-drop 6/6 flyer with vigilance and trample. It's already good. And it's got hexproof if it hasn't dealt damage yet. This is the same as an effect in Hearthstone where you can't really do anything to the creature. It just sits there and it's basically got shroud. But really hexproof in this case, in Magic. And only when the creature decides to attack can it be targeted in any way and taken out or fought with. I think it's a very interesting effect in Magic. I hope we get a few more of these, and I really like Palladia-Mors. Then Nicol Bolas, I also really, really like because I really like 4-drop, 3-drop commanders that are in 3 colors. They're my favorites, I guess, because I'm a new commander player. I consider myself to be fairly new to the format. So Nicol Bolas is in Grixis, as always. Blue, black, red. It's a flyer 4/4/4. That's really good already. And when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. Stop right there. You've got something good. Now, on top of that, if you've got a mountain of mana, if you've got 7 mana for the effect, then you can flip them. And I think if you're allowed by your opponents to flip Nicol Bolas in a game, they're basically saying, we want you to win the game. Okay, you're just going to win the game because, and I think it's even true for all the other 2 Nicol Bolas Planeswalkers, even the M13 one. It's very hard to flip. It's very hard to cast a Nicol Bolas Planeswalker as it should be. And in the case of M13 and in the case of the recent one with Hour of Devastation, if you get to the point where your opponent allows you to cast it, they're basically telling you that they want you to win the game. I mean, you're not, when you read through what Nicol Bolas is going to make you do after you let it cast, it's crazy. It comes in as a 7 loyalty, and you +2 for 2 cards. It's already at 9. It's going to be nearly impossible to take out, except, of course, thankfully these days we do have a lot of rare black sorceries at 3 that can take out a planeswalker. Then Asmadi, Vaevictis Asmadi the Dire, is a 6/6/6 flyer, already good. When it attacks, for each player, choose target permanent that player controls. It's permanent. Can be a land, an enchantment, can be a saga, can be anything. That's a permanent. And those players sacrifice those permanents. Each player who sacrifices a permanent this way reveals the top card of their library, then puts it onto the battlefield if it's a permanent card. Yeah, I mean, in a table of 4, you could hit this and help one of your opponents cast something gigantic because they just put it on the battlefield. It better not be Omniscience that is on top of their library. So I really like the chaos aspect of this commander. I don't consider him a great commander in the sense that chaos aspect is not reliable at all, and you could be letting one of your opponents do something completely crazy and game busting on you. Still, it's fun to play. I'm sure it's going to be fun to play. Of course, again, now we're going to go through each one of the commanders, and I'm going to talk about where that specific shard of Alara stands in EDH Rec. And that sort of tells you how good the pools are for cards. I mean, sometimes it's the commander that's really good, but sometimes it's really the colors that help it be really good. That's where all the busted tutors are, that sort of thing. I mean, commander really runs, unfortunately or unfortunately, commander runs on tutors. You got 100 cards. If you don't have anything that can search for something, you're going to have a lot of games where you just sit there and nothing comes out. That's just the way the 100 card deck works. So when we look at EDH Rec for Grixis, Necrosar is on 2,500 decks. Now I'm going to roll through very quickly all of them just so we get a lay of the land. So the top Grixis commander is Necrosar, and it sits on Grixis. Okay, when we go to Jund, the top one is on 1,800. It's Prosh. When we go to Bant, the top one is Derevi on 1,900. I'm going to go through these again. Then when you go to Esper, Oloro is on 2,800. So Oloro is definitely at the top of the pack. Naya is a little weak. Maya, the Anima, is only I like to call her the Anima. It's really the Anima. Is on 1,400 decks. So there you have it as the lay of the land. Naya is kind of the weaker shard for total numbers of decks. Esper is number 1 with the 2,800 Oloro decks. And then Derevi and Prosh are up there in Jund. And then Grixis is number 2, a very close one with Necrosar. So Grixis is a very strong shard for building commanders. I'm not going to go through these, but just giving you the lay of the land of where Nicol Bolas is going to land. So in the commander world, Nicol Bolas is going to have to contend with Necrosar, Marquesa, Jaliva, and Thraximander, but especially the top 2. We'll find out. We'll know in a year whether Nicol Bolas turned out to be one of the top commanders on Grixis in the commander format. There's more commanders. There's a Nicol Bolas legendary creature that is in Master 25. So it'll be the second Nicol Bolas. And let's see if it does go up to the top ranks in EDH Rec over time. Then when we're on Jund with Asmadi, Asmadi's going to have to contend with Prosh. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's really Prosh and everybody else. The other ones, anything under 1,000, in my opinion, based on the range of cards that we've seen in EDH Rec, the range of commanders, is not as strong. So there you have it. Jund can have a 6-drop commander as its go-to commander. In the case of Bant, again, this dude is my favorite by far, just because I really love creative build-arounds as a casual player. It's going to have to contend with Derevi and Rune and Rafik of the many. So we shall see. We shall see how it does. It's a 4-drop, and the other Bant commanders are also aggressive. They're all 3-drop, 5-drop, 4-drop, and 3-drop with Genera. Then your Esper commander, Chromium, is going to have to contend with Oloro and Zur. And even Sharum, the Hegemon, which I remember when Commander got going, if I remember correctly, was a very popular commander. These are great commanders. They're on great themes. Chromium is not on anything specific. It's not like Zur with the enchantments thing going. It's not like Sharum with the artifact theme going. And of course, Oloro is just gains you a lot of life, I guess. And then there's also there's a lot of Esper commanders. There's a lot of artifacts in the game. People love to play artifacts. I'm one of them. So even the second tier has, by second tier meaning after the top 3, has Sand Triplets and Seedry, and they get played a lot. And I know Sand Triplets used to get played a lot more before all the commander precons came around. Then when we're on Naya, they get played a little less, but they're still really good decks to build with. And I actually plan a Mayael and a Marath deck for later this summer. And there's in the second tier, we have some newcomers that we have available. Samut and Geshath. I've already built Geshath. I haven't built Samut yet. And I also have a Gahiji, so I can build all 3. I can build the other 2 of the 3 that I haven't built, hopefully by the end of the summer. Then let's just go to the Rares and Mythics. And I'll just point out a few things about them that I see that I like or don't like or care or don't care about. Cleansing Nova is a nice board wipe with a 5-drop destroy all creatures. It's just a standard white board wipe, but it allows you to go the other way and destroy all artifacts and enchantments. That's very versatile. Isolate is interesting because it can only hit something with CMC 1, converted mana cost 1. I don't know. I mean, in a commander deck, you don't have a sideboard, and neither in Brawl. So it's going to have to be a constructed sideboard card. Yeah, I mean, it's there to police something maybe that's coming up. I mean, I even had our friend Deathrite Shaman ready to be shown. So if there's something in the Ravnica sets that is a 1-drop that can get out of control, Isolate is there for it. Again, the core set is doing its job here. The core set is there to police anything that gets out of hand. And this is why I think when we didn't have a core set, a few cards like Aetherworks Marvel that could have been very easily stopped with something, with a hate card, could just run rampant and just run over everything else. The Cleric I've already talked about when I talked about spirits, the 3 spirits in this set, and it's nice. You sack it, and then you can wipe out your a specific player's graveyard. Anybody at the table, if you're on Commander who's doing Reanimator, or even in 1 versus 1, of course, in 1 versus 1, you're going to have to make sure that it's useful. But it's not. You still have a 2/1 flyer. There's Deathrite Shaman. Ajani's Last Stand is a 4-drop enchantment. It sounds better than it is to me because it's all reacting to something bad having happened to you. So the first clause, whenever a creature or a planeswalker you control dies, so something bad already happened. Fine, you get a 4/4 flying token. That's good. Yeah, it's better than just losing your Ajani Planeswalker. It is better than that. And then whenever a spell or ability on opponent control causes you to discard this card, if you control a planes, you get a 4/4 flyer. Again, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. But a lot of times you're going to be playing against somebody who's just ramping and not really causing you to discard. So if nobody causes you to discard it, you just get to play it. That's fine. I mean, you're gonna want to put it together in a deck where you have something that it's gonna die when this thing is on the board. It's a 4-drop, so it'll be mid to late game. It's okay. Metamorphic Alteration, I think, is a little different than Phantasmal Image, but it sort of does the same thing. And so when you enchant a specific creature, and it doesn't have to be a creature you control, it can be an opponent's creature, it becomes a copy of the chosen creature. So that's good. Now when you drop it, if you drop it on your opponent, yeah, you will not want to drop it on an opponent. You will want to drop it on one of your creatures. I mean, it might as well say enchant creature you control. Unless, okay, so this is very creative in my opinion, unless your opponent has, let's just say your opponent has one of the Elder Dragons. You enchant the Elder Dragon and you make it a copy of one of your weenies, and then now all of a sudden it's a 1/1 token. That's very creative. I just have Phantasmal Image here as a reference, because when it enters, it becomes a copy of any creature on the battlefield. It's got the illusion thing where whenever anything targets it, you sack it. I think Metamorphic Alteration is a little more creative, and I think it's strong. I think it really is something you can have to make sure anything big one of your opponents has, as long as you can choose a creature that is a lot weaker, I think it can do some damage. Suncleanser is actually pretty interesting, and I have here 2 cards from Commander Precon's, I think the symbol on Thief of Blood. I don't really recognize that symbol, but it's not one of the regular issue sets. It could have been made for one of the supplementary products. So Suncleanser is nice. It's already a 2/1/4. That's okay. I would have played it in limited. So you could choose one of 2 things. You can remove all counters from target creature, and it can have counters put on it as long as this card is on the battlefield, or you can have target opponent lose all counters, and that dude or dudette cannot get any more counters as long as this is on the battlefield. I think this is a really, really strong card, in my opinion, especially where it's coming in, and people with Kaladesh cards with energy are going to want to do things. Suncleanser is going to really stop them on their tracks unless they have a way to kill it. You can also take a big critter that's got a bunch of counters on it and just turn it into its base creature. But I think the second clause is the one that I like the most. Now it's target opponent, it's not you. So for example, if it was you, you could have 9 infect counters, and you'd be about to die and constructed. You cast this and clean your own counter. You can't do that. So this is only about target opponent. I still think it is a great card. I love it. Miss Scholar, I already talked about before. It's going to host Reanimator, but it's very situational in my opinion. And otherwise, it's just a plain old 1/1/1. I'm not crazy about it. Omniscience, of course, is here to sell packs. It's a great effect. It's one of these that if you can cast it, you win the game. That's great. I don't know what else to say about it. It's fantastic, but it's a one-trick pony. I don't know. I personally am not a fan of building decks around something like Omniscience, but it is a great card, and I'll admit to that. And I'm not going to be like, oh, wow, I pulled an Omniscience, that sucks. I'll be happy if I pull one, and maybe I'll do something with it. Mystic Archaeologist is actually pretty good. I was trying to look for, I looked in Gatherer for cards that have a similar effect, and they're actually not that common. I couldn't really find anything in all of Magic's history that is this clean. I really couldn't. If you guys can and you want to leave me something in the comments, I'll go look for it. But I really couldn't. So in that sense, this card is very, very good because it's clean. You have the 5 mana, you get the 2 cards, and you can do it repeatedly. You have 10 mana, you can get 4 cards. That's really good in my opinion. It's just very clean. It's clean like Maul Drifter is clean. If you cast Maul Drifter for the evoke cost for 2 blue, Maul Drifter effectively becomes Divination. It's no surprise it's such a fantastic card and a true staple of Modern. Maul Drifter is. So Mystic Archaeologist comes in at 1 less mana. Yes, it is true you have to sink more, because for 3 you get 2. With Maul Drifter, with Mystic Archaeologist you get 2 cards, but you got to pump in 5. I still like it. I still think it's really good. The Johnny in me just loves it. And I'm comparing it also to Mercurial Chemister. You gotta drop it as a 5/2/3, but then for only 1 blue mana you tap it and you get 2 cards. So again, these are 3 variations on a theme, and I really like the Mystic Archaeologist twist on that theme. Then One with the Machine, I think is a fantastic sorcery for 4 mana. Draw cards equal to the highest converted mana cost among artifacts you control. I really love this in a blue artifacts deck. Hopefully you're going to have some enablers that allow you to cast your artifacts cheaper, and if you do, it could be at turn 3 you have like a 4-drop artifact. You cast this on turn 4 and you're drawing 4 cards. I think it's a really, really good card. Patient Rebuilding. At the beginning of your upkeep, target opponent drops 3 cards in their graveyard, and then you get to draw a card for each land that was dropped that way. There is a milling deck in M19. This card is definitely in it, and I think it's going to work, but this is a 5-drop enchantment, and with milling, you want to drop something very early so you can very quickly disrupt your opponent. This is not going to disrupt your opponent. It's going to get down to the end. I don't think at 5-drop, Patient Rebuilding is as good as it reads. I don't think so, because it's just coming in too late. If Patient Rebuilding was a 2-drop, and your opponent only dropped 1 card, it would seem like very little, but it would happen earlier in the game. And a lot happens earlier in the game that's going to determine the outcome. So no, I don't think Patient Rebuilding is that good. The Gin of Wishes is a reprint. It was in Magic 2010, Magic 2012. It's in here because we're in a core set and it needs to fill the slot. It's a 5/4 flyer, and it gets wish counters, and you remove a wish counter, pay some mana, and you can do a Scry 1 twist. You can reveal the card, and then you can play without paying its mana cost. It requires a lot of setting up, and it's the reason why it's in a core set, and it's the reason why it's not going to be like, oh my god, the Gin of Witches is this deck, not witches, but wishes. It's this deck that I built that I can win games with. I don't think so. Rares and Mythics, more Rares and Mythics. The Sphinx is a staple of core sets and other sets. We needed a Sphinx. Here it is. So it's a 7/3/7 flyer. If you play this end of game, it doesn't really matter how many cards you can draw off of it. You're near the end of the game. That's all I'm going to say about that. Bone Dragon is a 5/5/4 flyer. And for 5 mana, 3 blue, you can exile 7 other cards from your graveyard, and you can return this to the battlefield tapped. That's a cool effect. It's neat. It's a mythic. I'm not sure it feels mythic. Okay, if it was like 1 black and you got to do it, I mean, look at all the setup you need. You need to have the 5 mana to drop the thing. Then somebody's gonna kill it, or you can drop it in your graveyard. If you can drop it in your graveyard without casting it, that's even better, because then you never have to spend the 5 mana and somebody removed it, all this setting up. It's in your graveyard. You gotta have 7 other cards in your graveyard already. and you have to have the 5 mana. But if you had it in your hand, you would have cast it. It's nice. It really, in my opinion, does not feel mythic enough. I don't see it being a strong mythic. Maybe I'll eat my words. Then Demon of Catastrophes is one of the demons for the win con, and I think I have the win condition card in this list. And it's a 4/6/6 flyer with trample, and all you need to do is sack a creature to cast this. I think that's really great. It's very easy in black to have some random token, maybe a 2/2 zombie that you can sack to this. And then you'll still get something that's square. Even if you had that token for 2, you're exchanging a 2/2 for a 6/6/6 flyer with trample. That's not bad. Infernal Reckoning is very interesting. It's only a 1-drop, and it can exile target colorless creature. It's going to be a sideboard card. If your opponent has no colorless creatures, this thing is doing nothing in your hand. You're going to gain a lot of life if it's against an Eldrazi. It's no surprise that in the picture you've got a demon crushing an Eldrazi with its hand. Liliana's Contract, 5-drop enchantment. You draw 4 cards and you lose 4 life. And then this is the 4-demon win con. So that's pretty good. How many demons are there? There are a few demons. I thought I wrote it somewhere. Maybe it's not in this specific. I think it's in the build around video after this one, where I say there's 4 other demons. There's 4 demons that are going to be in standard, and 3 of them are going to be rotating. So this is going to be your summer. This is a summer deck with the demon win con. Fraying Omnipotence, or Omnipotence, I'm sorry. Fraying Omnipotence is a 5-drop sorcery, and I think it's really good. I was looking through all of Magic, and the effect, I couldn't find something that had this specific combined effect to be able to compare what 3 black was compared to like one of the ultimatum cards. I don't think it matches one of the ultimatum cards at all that I can tell. So again, each player loses half their life, discards half the cards in their hand, then sacrifices half the creatures they control, and you round up each time. It's a great way to clear the board in your favor if you're way behind. If you're way ahead, you're going to be the one losing the most. So definitely, this is a quintessential come from behind card. Something like Cruel Bargain. Well, Doomsday is not a come from behind card at all. It's just here because the clause for both cards, Doomsday and Cruel Bargain, have the you lose half your life rounded up clause. And in the case of Cruel Bargain, you draw 4 cards. In the case of Doomsday, you do something crazy because it's Doomsday. Okay. The Alpine Moon is kind of like a hoser for greedy mana bases, and I like it a lot. It's a 1-drop. You drop it very early, and then you kind of set the tone for the game, and they better not be able to remove it. If they cannot remove it, it's going to suck. Yes, it is true. Each one of their lands is going to be add 1 mana of any color. That's really great. But if they were doing something else than having availability of various colors with their mana base, they're kind of toast. Maybe if they had a Wasteland, for example, fine, you can do more mana stuff with your Wasteland, but you can't use the Wasteland effect. So I think Alpine Moon is a really interesting card. I'm not sure how strong it is, but as a 1-drop, I really like it. Banefire just hits for damage to any target. That's great. And if it hits for a lot of damage, the damage cannot be prevented and it can't be countered. That is really fantastic. Both of these cards, I think, are very, very good. Apex of Power is a lot like Omniscience, and I really like that in core sets. That core sets can have these really crazy Johnny cards that are impossible to set up, but once you do, something really fantastic happens for you. So in the case of Apex of Power, you exile the top 7 cards of your library, and until end of turn, you may cast non-land cards exiled this way. And if you cast this from your hand, so you have the 10 mana, you get it back. You're going to pick red. But it's interesting because you could pick another color. And that's also very interesting. You could have Apex of Power in a deck that is not mostly or only red. I think it's a fantastic Johnny play. It would be a ton of fun. It's never going to be in any competitive deck. It's just going to be something that a Johnny like me, a casual Johnny like me, built a whole deck around and then gets to cast it like 3 times in a month. I'm comparing it to Act on Impulse, which was in Magic 2015. I love this card, and I did build around it. It's a lot smaller. The effect is really a lot smaller, but it doesn't have the non-land limitation. It's fewer cards. It's only 3. But you could have played lands, and I did. So I don't know. I even think Act on Impulse is something that I would like to play more. And we do have something that's a little less than Apex of Power in Standard with Hazoret's Undying Fury. So you shuffle your library, exile the top 4 cards, and you may cast any one of the non-lands if the CMC is 5 or less, without paying their mana cost. And then you got to tap all your lands during your next, your lands don't untap during your next untap step. So whatever mana you spent, you lose it for the next turn. All 3 of these cards are just Johnny casual heaven. Then we're getting down to green. Goreclaw really enables just any big critter, and I think I have it also in the build around, in the build arounds video after this one, where I go into detail about how many big critters this thing can help you with. And it's a lot of them, pretty much all of them, because you're reducing by 2. I think the only one I could find that wasn't reduced by 2 was Joda, because he's a 1 white blue red, so you're only going to reduce 1 of the costs instead of 2. But this is a great build around card. I love it. The Hydra, we needed a Hydra. Here it is. It's got X. You can put counters on it. Hungry Hydra. I almost want to pronounce it as Hungarian Hydra, but anyways, it's Hungry Hydra. And when it's typical of other Hydras that have been out before. I didn't search for it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a reprint. It's a Hydra. It does what Hydras do. Palladia-Mors, I'm really glad to see it back. And I really like that it's got a high devotion to green count. It's got 3 green mana. It's a 7/7/7. It's got trample. You gain 7 life when it enters the battlefield. And when it dies, you draw a card. It's a casual card. It's great. I love it. Prodigious Growth is a fantastic effect. You're almost never going to play something like this because, yeah, I mean, it's just too heavy. And usually this effect you want to play at a much lower casting cost, even for less, but you get more versatility out of it. It's a nice Johnny play. 6 mana. The creature now gets +7/+7 and trample. It's beautiful if you can cast this twice a month. Scape Shift is here just because it's a fun. It used to be competitive. I don't think it's competitive anymore. It's a one-trick pony combo deck with Valakut. So Space Shift and Valakut, and I think I discussed this in the build around video after this. Vivian's Invocation, I think, is a commander card. Really great effect, but for all of 7 mana. So you look at the top 7 cards of your library, you may put 1 creature card from among them onto the battlefield. You gotta get lucky that it's something really big, otherwise you're gonna be paying 7 mana to cast a 2-drop. I hope that's not what happens to you. And it doesn't feed your graveyard, it goes back into at the bottom of your library. And then it does deal damage equal to its power, that critter, to target creature an opponent controls. It's a wonderful effect, but it's got a really high variance. you better have something really good in those top 7 cards. But maybe you will. We're down to the rares and mythics in the artifact section, so we're almost done. I don't like to go over 30 minutes, and I'm a little over. Amulet of Safekeeping is actually really, really interesting. It's a counter spell that's kind of weak because when you counter your controller, all they need to do is pay 1, and then it didn't work. Now the creature tokens get -1, -0 permanently. It's fantastic. In many decks, it's not going to do anything, but a lot of people want to play one-drop tokens. So I mean, 1 power tokens, or even 2 power tokens, and it'll slow them down. So I think that by itself is good. The counter spell, or they pay 1 mana. I think it's good. I think it's very, very good. I was looking for something similar, and I really couldn't find anything similar. Now, it's nowhere near as powerful as Chalice of the Void, but it's in that department. In the case of Chalice of the Void, you have to anticipate what the converted mana cost of the spell you want to counter is, but you really host the crap out of your opponent because it just counters that spell. So if you say, hey, you're not going to be able to do any 2-drops in this game, it's very limiting. So it's no surprise that Chalice of the Void is a money card and will be for as long as it's not reprinted into oblivion. So I really like Amulet of Safekeeping. I think it's very good. I think it's very good. It's going to really slow down your opponent because they're not going to be able to tap out completely. If they do, you've got them. So, and they're not going to want to do it if they read what Amulet of Safekeeping does. Chaos Wand is another very interesting artifact. That's 3, and you pay 4, so it really costs you a total of 7. Target opponent exiles cards from the top of the library until they exile an instant or sorcery. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost, and then they get to put all the exile cards on the bottom of the library in a random order. This can be very disruptive to an opponent that doesn't have that many instants or sorceries, or just the way the draws go. You got to go through 10 cards. I don't know. It can go many different ways, and it's no surprise that chaos is in the name. Of course, Crucible of Worlds, great reprint. Even though it's a money card, it does something really that the Johnnies of the world love. It actually doesn't see a lot of play. I've seen it. I was looking for current decks in Legacy, and Vintage, and Modern, and I could find only a few decks that have like 1 in the sideboard. So it's kind of interesting. It's a lot like Rishadan Port. It's a great reprint of a money card, but you're not going to rush out to get a playset of these to play Modern or Legacy or Vintage. You're just not. So it'll be a really fun pull. I'm very happy that it's in this set. This is what a Magic core set should do, is reprint some fantastic cards that Johnnies like myself are going to be very happy with. Desecrated Tomb is a 3-drop artifact. Whenever 1 or more creatures leave your graveyard, you get a 1/1 black bad creature token with flying. That's pretty good in your reanimation deck. I like it. It's not super fantastic. It'd be way, way better if you got 1 token for each one of the creatures. But you know, it's good. And then the wand is very interesting. I don't really understand why it is here or why it is a card. And I guess we'll learn more as more sets are issued. When I look at the current standard, I don't know. I don't see what this answers. Maybe I'm missing something. It's a 3-drop. Gets 3 charge counters. You pay 1. You remove 1 charge counter. You can destroy target creature, and your opponent gets a 2/4 White Ox creature token. Yeah, I guess this artifact is expecting some big critter decks to get totally out of control, and it's there to really slow them down. And it's an artifact. You can put it in any color deck. It doesn't have any color identity whatsoever. Yeah, I think if we see some really crazy, big stompy decks, this thing is gonna kind of keep them in check. The Scepter is a 3-drop, 4, so you're paying 7 to put on the first charge counter, but you need 3. So you're going to spend a total of 15 mana to get to the point where you can take an extra turn. That is a ton of mana. I've said this before elsewhere in my channel. Taking extra turns can be stupid because then if you don't do it right, you just get to play an extra land. I think it's a cool Johnny card, and that's all it is. And we are done, and I hope you enjoyed this.